It's another Wednesday here, and we have the Manifesto series building up into August, when the both political parties, the NDC and the MPP, we expect them to launch their manifestos. But before they do that, we're going to be trying to set the agenda. What should they be focusing on in the manifestos? What are the key issues that will really address people's real concerns and lay the foundation for a transformative Ghana, a Ghana that develops but touches everybody else for the well-being of most of us? And that's what the Manifesto series is about. Today, we are doing the Agric Manifesto. And my guest will join me for a co-presentation of the facts that he has put together as to really influencing what the party should focus on. When the parties launch their manifestos, we'll come back together and look at whether they address some of the very important issues that we will be articulating as part of the Agric Manifesto. Remember that PMS is always brought to you by Syntax Tanks. It is strong, it is tough, and I always recommend the Syntax Tanks to you because obviously it's a tank that gives you bespoke offerings. The only tank producer that has 7 years warranty, and you can choose any color of size that you want. Call them, they are across Ghana, 0244-335-168, or shop online at syntaxgh.com. And joining me right now on set to go through the Agric Manifesto is Anthony Morrison. He's the CEO of the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana. He's the chairman of the Ghana Agriculture Sector Skills Body of Commission for TVET. Mr. Morrison, thank you for your time here on PM Express.
Well, thank you very much.
And there's a lot to go through, so let's get straight to it. The parties are currently in the process of finalizing their manifestos, and so we said, okay, let's put together one of the most important sectors. And one of the first things you did was to give us a sense of how important this is and what this could lead to if you do it right.
Yeah.
What are we looking at here?
All right. So what Ghana has been striving for over the past 60 years has always been food security. And you look at the Economic Intelligence Unit, it stated clearly, food security, we are not actually doing well. And you look at the African Union CADEP score, we're not also doing well on food security, and also that dovetails into nutrition and also lactating and other issues. So what we sought to do as a Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana, after consulting most of our partners and our Technical Advisory Council, this is what we have. And we believe strongly that if Ghana will go with this, because one of the key parameters we used was the NDPC 400 policy intervention across the areas that dovetail onto agriculture, agritourism,
you talk about rising income, higher demand for sale, social economic empowerment.
Yes. So what we're looking at primarily is that the higher the population grows, there is a need for us to start looking at the higher, the rising income. There will always be rising income, societal changes, and all what have you. Now, the higher demand for safer and quality foods, after interviewing and speaking to several people across the country, we did a program in the north on the farmer policy school, looking at 600 farmer policy experts. This is one of the key issues, rising income for farmers. This is what they are focusing on. Which party, which government is going to double the income of farmers?
And that's a very important point in this. So this has been compiled based on real feedback from Ghanaians who are involved in the agric sector. Yeah. But then you also highlight for us the Africa's food market. And this is a huge number, 1.3 billion. 17% of that is of world market.
This is coming from the agribusinesses. They are very much educated. They know what's happening globally. They know that the global food market is 1.3 billion worldwide, and Africa has a stake in this. Okay, the after, we're talking about it. Yeah. But if you put together the global food industry, we're looking at trillions of dollars. But this is what we're looking at when it comes to Africa.
But it's interesting because 17% of that of the world market is what Africa.
Yes, and this is only in raw material.
And in raw material. So yes, there's an opportunity there, I guess you're saying, that we can tap.
Of course. So you look at documents such as the UNIDO document on African industrialization and agribusinesses, focusing that Africa could be moving into $1 trillion global continental businesses. And those are the things that are actually influencing some of these things.
And that's important. What you're saying, you're setting the stage to tell us that if we do this right, and we get the manifestos right to deliver on an agric sector that then leads us to expand our output, we can tap into this market
Yes.
and make some handsome fortunes for
Exactly.
farmers, but also for the country.
Exactly.
And then you look at the accelerating sustainable income, and you talk about a few things that to explore the full agribusiness potential, you have to do a few things, right? Increase agro-industries, value addition, and increase employment in local agribusiness value chain. Expand on that for us.
Yeah, thank you. So last year, there's a company called Agri Impact Consult, and they did a full industry assessment on post-harvest. And Ghana alone, we ran into $10 billion when it comes to post-harvest losses in tomatoes, in fruits, in grains and cereals, and several others. As a result of the fact that we do not have the best state-of-the-art storage facilities when it comes to cold chain and all that. We are producing a lot, but the kind of variety we are producing does not also fit into agro-industrialization. So we need to do a lot on our seed.
So we have to import.
So for instance, we bring in beef tomatoes from Burkina Faso as against our
beef
local
tomatoes.
Yes. So the reason why it's called beef tomatoes is that the tomatoes has a lot of meaty. It's meaty and has less water content, okay, and has a longer shelf life. These are the sort of tomatoes that goes into agro-industrialization. Not the one we have in Ghana with very thin skin, 40% water content, shorter shelf life. That does not make it into agro-industrialization. So when, for instance, you go to the big restaurants or hotels, you are given your tomatoes, and you realize that these are full tomatoes, and they still come with a lot of meaty parts. We cannot have our local tomatoes doing that. And that is what we're talking about. And value addition, that is what we're talking about.
So
add value
raw
instead of exporting raw. Farm. Our cocoas, our coffee, our soya, maize, and all of these things, we need to add value to them. And the point is that the more you are creating agro-industrialization, obviously you are solving the issues of increasing employment along the agribusiness value chain. In fact, the biggest agribusiness value chain in Ghana is the poultry industry. Okay, because it dovetails into a lot of other sectors. You need maize, you need soya, you need rice, you need the additives of lysine, methionine, decalciums, and several of them. And you even need to look at how you can fight the issues of aflatoxins and all that.
And you say all this because this is a picture here. We said that, the Agric Manifesto towards food security. This is our food security picture.
Yes.
What is this telling us?
So this is a very factual data from Economic Intelligence Unit, and they come up every 2 years on the Global Food Security Index. And then you look at it as at 2022. We did very well. Okay, let's not get it wrong. We did very well.
Food security, 52.6%?
Yes, we did. In fact, Ghana went up at the time. But if you look at the level, the points that we gained compared to other countries,
that's what you're talking about, 2.1 points.
That's it. So even though we did very well on the data as shown, it was just a minor improvement.
Yeah.
Okay. So and that if you compare the minor improvement with the population growth, we are actually not doing well.
And another thing that is important is affordability.
Of course,
it's deteriorated.
Yes, even before affordability, because of the population growth, we are importing more. Our importation bill for the food sector has tripled.
So we are not growing enough to meet the
demand. That's it. So affordability has also deteriorated because our cedi has depreciated against the major importing currencies we are using. So if you are exchanging 16 or whatever for the dollar, where we are importing a lot of food because the dollar is being used as a global denominator, the common person on the street cannot afford. Previously, the common person could do a very good job with a 10 cedis.
Yeah, when we talk about imported inflation, that's exactly what you're saying.
Yes.
Bringing inflation into the country.
That's it.
If you're producing locally, then you cut out that particular problem.
And so that is negating the affordability issue.
But this is shocking, actually. The highest food prices in sub-Saharan Africa.
Well, this is a factual statement from the World Bank.
That's shocking.
And you see...
The whole of sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah, we are.
Highest food prices.
Yeah, in fact, I was in Abuja 2 months ago. We were looking at I'm part of the Technical Working Group 5 for African Union on the next Malabo 10-year strategy for the Africa. So when with ECOWAS, we were looking at the data, and it was showing clearly that we are actually not doing well.
Has this improved because this was 2020?
Yes, so of course, slightly, but not with regards to, even though we have improved, our current dollar cedi ratio has made it so worse. Okay, so because right now the cost of production has gone up.
Yeah, I mean, and everybody must eat.
Of course.
So that's the only thing that you can't avoid.
That's true.
So when it goes up, it affects everybody else, the poorest. But of course, if you earn more, you can manage somehow. And that is why this is important. But then and this is what we are talking about.
Yeah.
It's how it feeds into inflation.
Okay.
And you're right. When you look at the Statistical Service data, food inflation is always the highest element in there, which is what you're displaying here on the
So you see the 24% of food inflation.
Yeah.
The chamber did, we presented a document last time to Bank of Ghana, and we wanted to show them what constitutes Ghana's food price build-up, which is in there making the food price and the food inflation to go up.
And I need to make a point. I mean, we want to lift people out of poverty, fix agriculture. Because what it is that the guy is earning some amount of money, but he's going to spend most of it on buying food.
Yeah.
So he stays in poverty. He cannot lift himself, he can't save to take his children to school because he must eat. If you don't eat, you will die eventually, right? And this you can't avoid. It's not luxury. It is basic necessity. So that is why this is important. So for political parties, your point to them is, if you really want to lift Ghanaians, majority of us out of poverty, and majority of us still live below the dollar, then you must prioritize agriculture because then it fixes the inflation, it fixes employment, it fixes almost everything else.
But Evans, the data shows that the 2018 agriculture census shows that 56% of the rural population are into agriculture. So it points out a very clear picture of how the economy, the rural economy is fast deteriorating because of where we are. And in the past 10 to 15 years, we have actually not increased the national budgetary allocation for agriculture sector more than even 10%.
And that is dangerous.
That is very dangerous.
Because considering the numbers involved in agric still in the rural areas.
Yes. And we have also a very high farmer illiteracy rate. Okay? So we are also dovetailing into an area where we have overage farmers. And we also have a farmer illiteracy rate and also a farmer population that are yet to embrace technology.
And that is a big thing.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot that you need to invest in getting that fixed. And this is what you illustrate is cost of food surged by 44.77% in October 2023 compared to the same period. And so this has been going up. And you catalog all the challenges that the sector is facing there. And then you come to the agric sector growth. And this, I watch this and say, but it's not all gloomy, is it? Because you're looking at growth going up. If you compare 2022 to 2023, from 4.30 to 6.30.
Yes, so this because of, the sub-region, we do a lot of food trade.
You actually make the point, causes of increased growth rate.
That's it. We're having a lot of migration incoming. And the point also is that our food bill, as I stated, is also going up. Okay, so the cost of production is going up. We are actually producing, but the population, we are not able to meet the demands. Okay, and we are also not able to separate the human need from the industry need and the livestock need.
And so what's the role of the livestock subsector to this? Because you separated into the crop subsector and livestock subsector.
Yes, because this is very important. In fact, there is another point I was going to add to this, which was the agro-industrialization. Okay, but if you look at it, the subsector for livestock, we look at maize, rice, soya. All these areas are very strong areas that we need to look at. Separate it such that, for instance, we consume 3.6 million metric tons of maize annually, but we are not able to determine what tons goes into livestock. Okay, when it comes to rice, we consume about 1.8 million metric tons, out of which we import about 1 million metric tons, right? So there is a huge gap there that we need to fill. Out of that, we're talking about, how do you call it, paddy rice, what quantity in terms of the processing, how are we doing with the losses in between, and we're also looking at the soya, what quantity goes to the factories, what quantity of the soya meal or the soya cake goes to livestock, and what comes also to human consumption. So this is quite a number of things that we need to be looking at.
Very interesting indeed, and you give us what the supply chain looks like.
Oh, of course.
All the way.
This is what we're looking at.
From the farm, obviously.
At the farm level, we're talking about the pre-activities of production, what happens. So we're looking at some of the activities like input dealers, what they have to do, machinery service providers or mechanization service providers, and extension service, all that are within that level. Then at this level, of course, you're looking at marketing, interfacing with harvesting, because you need market to move from the farm gate to the market here. This market can develop another market for this. Actually, this is where we are having a lot of our food price build-up coming from.
Transportation.
Yes.
Because you're talking about fuel. For the guy who's transporting, the cost of fuel has gone up.
Yeah, because he needs to aggregate.
The roads are terrible.
Yeah.
So then he's adding cost to you who is transporting.
Certainly.
Yeah, and that's and then the distribution.
Yeah.
How is distribution an issue?
Yeah.
How is that an issue?
So what it is, though, is that most of the major farms are not centralized, that you can go and offload a trailer of goods. You need to actually aggregate. And as you aggregate, you need warehouse. You need to go there and repack. And by the time you get a trailer, you have spent some amount of money, because you are paying loaders, offloaders, you are paying packers, you are paying every activity of that value chain. So by the time you come back to your warehouse and load and bring it back to the market, a lot has gone in there. In fact, if you do the arithmetic here, you are almost getting to the same cost of buying the same product per bag.
Goodness me.
Yeah.
Goodness me. And then you talk about shelves and consumer end. Of
course, because we have a very porous product, high increase in chemical usage, agrochemicals, high increase in fertilizer, challenges with regards to climatic conditions, and all that are having effect on shelf life. The quality of seeds, hybrid seeds, what kind of seeds we are using. We are still using a lot of OPV. If you ask PPRSD, we are still using a lot of them. So
what is OPV?
They are OP-variegated seeds.
Okay.
So we need to look at how we can give our farmers more of these hybrid seeds for them to be able to increase their yield.
This is a really gloomy picture. I mean, if you look at that chain there, and again, we are emphasizing why this is such an important thing. I'm listening to you right now, and if you're a farmer, I don't envy you, because you have to go through all this just to get your product to the shelves for me to buy. Yeah. And by the time it gets there, it's possibly perished, or the cost is too much, I can't afford it, and that becomes an issue. And that's something that parties must deal with. Yeah. Well, we're going to go to the areas where you talk about what the parties must be doing to address this pretty shortly. But what are some of the key issues that the parties you expect them to do? Okay, so we're looking at increasing budgetary allocation for the agriculture sector. We're also looking at the fact that we need to look at job creation. So we're talking about agro parks, or agro-industrial parks, because this is where we are looking to export. We have the National Agro Export Strategy document. We are yet to meet some of these requirements. So those are very important. Farmers are talking about the fact that there is a need to also give them certain leverage, protection. Our farmers need protection, because we are in the West Africa sub-region, and farmers ought to be given that kind of support to be able to be competitive. Currently, we've lost our competitive advantage when it comes to pineapple, right? Benin, you will not believe it, is currently leading when it comes to pineapple export, because we are not able to compete with them with the cost of production. So farmers are beginning to become more elite and educated in their demands, and you can see some of the things that have come out of the engagement we've had with them. Now, a few things I want to highlight, just going back to some of the key points, because this is where we were. You talk about factors influencing food prices in Ghana. This is some things we talked about, just explaining that all the way down to the retail market is a key point. But then you look at existing gaps, right? You talk about lack of access to quality inputs, which you've stressed on before, and then insufficient knowledge. You talk about the farmers, again, the huge population of them still illiterate.
Let me hammer on this.
Okay.
We have about 11 to 30 billion, okay, directly involved in agriculture. And we have more than that indirectly involved in agriculture. What it does mean is that if any government is serious of reducing the farmer population so that the limited amount of budgetary allocation we have can be measured in terms of impact, you ask yourself, you have 10 million farmers, okay, or more. How much do you think you can put into, as a result of public funding for agriculture, that will make the impact? You should be giving the sector, our importation bill in terms of food is in excess of 10 billion, right? So you need to be putting there for at least for the next 5 years consistently, nothing less than $1.5 billion.
I should ask you, so what percentage of our GDP must we be focusing, must we be investing in agriculture?
If you ask me, not less than 15%.
Okay. Okay, that's interesting because the last time we did the health manifesto, they also mentioned the same thing, that they also want 15% devoted to the health, but you also want 15%.
Oh, but you know that when we are treating food well, the health bill is going to come up.
I know that, of course. Your health is equated to the quality of food you eat.
Exactly.
And that is important indeed. But you also talk about inadequate post-harvest handling and storage. That goes.
Our post-harvest data still shows that we are still losing a lot of product on the field. Late arrival of harvesting equipment and also the post-harvest treatment. Some of the warehouses are so far from the farmers. Okay, and it doesn't make sense if the warehouse is close to the market. I can bypass the warehouse and go to the market because most farmers don't like to hoard or hold food. There are people who want to send their products to the market and quickly make the money and take care of social, economic activity.
Now, this is where it becomes interesting because this is what you're asking the parties to focus on. Yeah. This is what you want to see in the manifesto. So when you say you want to see improved access to quality inputs through subsidies, this is a very controversial one. Immediately you mention subsidies, alarm bells go off, right? Why is this a prudent policy for any government to pursue subsidies? The world has moved on from subsidies, have they not?
The truth must be told. European Union gives subsidies to their farmers. US gives subsidies to their farmers. China gives subsidies to their farmers, right? Now, we all do know they even protect them. There are protection and intervention policies that all these countries use to protect their farmers and the agriculture sector. What we are saying is that give subsidies to farmers, let them increase production, you create the global market space and export the excess, just as every country does. If you go to the food buffer stock, what quantity of food do we have there? If there is a situation in Ghana now, can that buffer stock facility hold Ghana's food system for the next 2 months? Which is no. In other countries, they can hold it for 2 years. All right? So we are not only talking about export of the remnants of our product, but also storage for future interventions. Remember when COVID came, we borrowed some food from the ECOWAS buffer stock, then we have to send it back last year. So we need to be very strategic.
What are you subsidizing?
So we want them to subsidize on fertilizers, on agrochemicals, and on seeds. Those 3 points are non-negotiable.
Okay. And then you talk about credit. That's a credit. We all know that's a challenge. The private sector, they don't want to put money in agriculture because it's risky. Banks are not doing that. We set up specialized banks to do this.
So there is a simple way. Invest in credible data, farmer credible data. Do the mapping, do the traceability, and build a credible data. Let the government invest in that, build the data. The financial institution will tap in because the data is credible.
Okay, and whose responsibility is that?
Government, Ministry of Food and Agriculture, Ministry of Finance have to put in investment and to do that.
So that's why you want to see this in a manifesto. You want to see a manifesto that articulates this quite clearly. Yeah. If you're going to subsidize, what are you subsidizing? Credit, how are you going to create the environment for banks to feel comfortable to put their monies into farmers and farming? Post-harvest infrastructure is key for you to just touched on, the ability to remain food secure.
But you should be worried about the extension service.
That's so critical.
Because it enhances productivity.
What's the state of that?
FAO says that to every one extension officer, we're talking about 50 to 100 farmers.
Is that ideal?
Now we're talking about 5,000. Okay. One extension officer to 5,000.
What has happened? Is it that farmers. We've lost extension officers or the farmers?
We are just not resourcing the extension services department very well for them to be able to do the work that is required to do. And of course, we need to also employ more extension service providers. However, if we input the private sector perspective on it, yes, that can also augment the government.
Let's talk about some of the obvious ones. Road infrastructure is an issue, limited cold chain facility. And you are saying that you want the parties to tell you that they want to upgrade and maintain rural road networks. That is always one that parties will put in their manifesto. You can expect that this will be in there. But why hasn't it solved the problem? Roads, we even had one time a year of roads. Then another year of roads.
Well, some of the areas
that
we actually visited.
It's that we are not prioritizing. We are yet building roads. We are not prioritizing the right areas where.
No, we are prioritizing it, but the implementation. For instance, the Economic Intelligence Unit is telling us that governments are not committed to the priorities of the country. Yeah, you can set out this in your manifesto, but you must be committed to it. What kind of people do we give road contracts to in the rural areas to do it? Do they have the requisite expertise? Are they competent to deliver? No, they're not. And that is the reason we are still seeing deplorable rural agriculture roads.
To fix the transportation, apart from building the roads, you're saying that you need to establish cold storage and transportation facilities to maintain product quality. Where are you doing this? Are you positioning it close to where the farms are?
This must be a national mapping. So when it comes to Chamber's office, we have a map. We've developed a map that is showing you the national food transportation roadmap. We need to follow this on year basis and be able to take stock of what we have done, what is supposed to do based on our national priorities. Yes, the cocoa roads have been sorted, a national priority, but food security is a key priority. Where are major food coming from? Are we solving? Because currently, as we speak, some of the areas when you go to the forest belt, okay, it takes them 3 days to 1 week to drag a truck full load of food to the main road. You have to go and take a tractor dragging a trailer. So we're talking about challenges, obviously, that are not inured to the benefit. For instance, if you have to load maize and you're talking about forest belt, it's raining, you've harvested this maize, you've spent money to dry it, okay, then it's taking you 1 week. The rain is falling, aflatoxin level are beginning to deteriorate or infest the maize. Then you come to your warehouse. You are going to incorporate all these expenses of drying up again, rebagging into the final sales. And it's affecting food price also on the market.
I mean, it's so fascinating listening to what you're talking about and the need to do this and do this urgently. Every government talk about prioritizing the agri sector. We have this government that came in with the flagship program called Plan for Food and Jobs, right? Yeah. And that was in a manifesto. Has it delivered?
I don't think it has. In fact, PFJ1 was a complete flop. PFJ2 is still on the drawing map. It has really, in fact, farmers have not benefited last year, and they are also struggling to benefit this year. So we are actually not looking at PFJ1 and 2 because for us at the industry, they've not really achieved their purpose. If they had, okay, the food importation bill will not be going up. Okay, factories at the agro-processing level will not be importing a lot of raw materials just to augment processing and production. So we're looking at something more pragmatic in this area rather than PFJ1 and PFJ2.
Let's talk about the markets, because that's for you one of the things you highlighted before, that you say you want them to tackle the establishment of efficient market linkages, right, in the manifestos, and then developing market information systems. Why is this important?
Because what informs the farmer to produce maize 10 acres this year? The market exists before production. It's not production to market. The global system of...
You must first
identify your
market. You have a market, then you grow.
So the market are two. You need to identify the two markets, whether the production is going to agro-processing or the production is going to livestock, or even the third one, human consumption. So you determine the variety that fits all these areas. You don't go to produce to only realize that the factory have closed down.
But how can government solve this particular puzzle?
So government have to invest in this, and the private sector will come in and roll up. Okay, other jurisdictions, this is what we've seen. Establish efficient market linkages and platforms for farmers and buyers. A lot of the private sectors are doing it, but they are doing it in silos. If government invests, as I told you, in efficient, credible data, the private sector will use this data to develop these platforms. So it has to be a PPP kind of arrangement, public-private partnership for agribusiness transformation. Those are some of the things we're talking about.
That's interesting indeed. And then, of course, the inconsistent policies. And your link to that is to talk about the fact that develop and implement consistent policies. You believe that policies have been implemented have been inconsistent?
Yeah, Evans.
Which ones?
Again, Economic Intelligence Unit says that the reason why Ghana's food security industry is so bad is because, first, our policies are not harmonized. We have a lot of government Kwango agencies implementing agriculture sector programs. Who is coordinating? Who is making sure
The Agric Ministry?
No. So we having a lot of projects that have been implemented very badly. I'll give you one example. One district, one factory, one down, one village. You just name them. What has been the impact? And we can mention some of the factories that the president have gone there and it's been inaugurated now. They've closed down. Okay? So we need to be very critical about political party manifestos. We, the farmers, we, the agribusiness industry players, we are going to hold them squarely to what the demands we are picking up.
Interesting indeed. And that's a very fundamental point because all of them will come with some fantastic policy suggestions for you.
Of course.
And that is something that we'll have to watch. Let's wrap up with this. And this is just a 6-point bullet of the most essential things that you want. Walk us through that.
Okay. So implementation of clear and consistent land tenure policy.
And that's so important. That's at the heart of the problem that everybody faces.
Do you know how long it takes you to get 1,000 acres of land without any litigation?
Tell me.
How long it will take you?
Tell me.
You would end up spending no less than 70,000 cedis or more just to get a credible 1,000 acres. And that is not acquisition. Just to get the documentation, everything to say, okay, now you've landed, we can negotiate on the price. You spend, and that will take you about 6 to 1 year. Which investor will be interested in doing that? We need government to invest in that area. I know we started something called the Ghana Agricultural Land Bank Investment Project, but it has not moved on. Ministry of Finance wanted to be playing a part, Ministry of Agriculture. We need to have a clear-cut policy. Who is doing what at the government level? Too much depleting of small resources available to the country to a lot of government congos. Let one ministry do it. Let's look at the governance structure of agriculture because at the base is the Department of Agriculture. They are implementing projects, not MOFA. So let's look at the proper decentralization. Let MOFA focuses on the policy coordination, policy development, and let the Ministry of Local Government, which the Department of Local Government Agriculture sits on, to be able to run and implement this project, and they coordinate and punish those institutions that are not able to deliver on the national mandate.
And the rest of them you've touched already. Of course, investor confidence. If you address them, these issues, investors will have the confidence to come and put their money in there. What you say. Access to credit is key. Land consolidation, expansion, you touched on that. It's part of the land tenure system problem that you have, right? And the technology adoption is a big one. First of all, we are not even investing in creating the technology in the first place, but when it's available, people struggle to adopt it, right? And I know private sector is investing in technology, but it's very slow. People still want to use their hoes and cutlasses. What incentives are you creating for them to see the benefits there? I guess is the point you're making. And the value chain development is key. Listen, we're going to sit down and expand on the key things that we've just been talking about with Mr. Morrison here. Dr. Charles Nyaba, former president of the Peasant Farmers Association, will join us. Edward Carraway is the General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union. GAU is also my guest. And then Professor Edward Onuma is Associate Professor of Agricultural Economics at the University of Ghana, will also join us, sitting down to dissect this a bit more as we wait to see what the parties are going to put in their manifestos. This is what they should be focusing on. If they come and we don't find this in them, we'll hold their feet to the fire. After this, we're interrogating this a bit more. Stay with me. And my guests are seated now with me in the studio is Professor Edward Onuma. He's Associate Professor of Agricultural Economics at the University of Ghana. Is with me. Edward Carraway is the General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union. GAU is with me here in the studio. Dr. Charles Nyaba, a former president of the Peasant Farmers, former executive director of the Peasant Farmers Association, is also with me. And of course, you heard Anthony Morrison with me going through the document that he had prepared. And I want to start with you, Mr. Nyaba, because I know this is something that is dear to your heart. When you used to be the former executive director, I'm pretty sure during this time you'll be engaging the parties on trying to influence what they're going to put in their manifestos. Is that still happening?
Yeah, we do.
That's still happening, okay.
Yeah, so we have almost the major political parties engaged us this time around.
Okay.
We had the opportunity of meeting NDC, Agric Manifesto team. We met Alan Cash. We met MPP. I think we also met one independent candidate that we are yet to engage with.
What were the big issues? I mean, Anthony had gone through for us what the focus should be.
Yeah.
Told us what the problem is and what the focus should be if you want to address a problem. For you, at the peasant farmers level, what are your big issues that you want to see the parties address in their manifestos?
Yeah, so throughout our meetings, some of the issues that Farmer Anthony mentioned emerged, but major concerns of our members, I can list them and then we take them one after the other. First, has to do with the impact of climate change.
Impact of climate change?
Yes.
First?
Yeah.
That's surprising.
So most of the areas we went through were requesting for irrigation projects. We say this because we are in August. Previous years, by now when you go to some places like the Middle Belt, you come to the southern part, Afran Plains, you go to the coastal areas, people would have been harvesting maize. Today, farmers are still planting because the rainfall has actually shifted from when we used to plant in May, June to August. By October ending, the rain stopped. So the whole of from October to May, farmers will be roaming idle. The limited irrigation dams are not functional. They are not actually enough, and they are not also functional. So that's one of the priority areas that most of our farmers were demanding from the public.
And peasant farmers, they understand climate change?
Evans. So secondly, one of the major areas also has to do with...
No, I mean, it's a serious question because I traveled across the country working sometimes with the EU, but also with GIC, trying to get farmers to appreciate the impact of climate change, and also for them to adopt climate-smart agricultural practices.
Yeah.
And you see that as a challenge. You have to be very consistent to get them to appreciate the link between that practice and the impact on their livelihoods. Are you seeing a change when farmers are now beginning to fully grasp what climate change is and impact on their lives?
And the farmer, look, if farmers are going to educate you about changing climate variables like the rainfall pattern, temperatures, humidity, you will marvel. So they are even well prepared with more practical solutions than what our research gurus like my lecturer here, you know, the ways he's sitting closer to me is really making it very difficult for me to prove because he lectured me before.
Oh, take it easy.
Yeah.
Once a student, always a student.
So it's glaring when you go in.
But that is impressive that we're making progress there where farmers are now beginning to, first of all, understand the climate change
the impact of climate
problem
so
and the impact on your lives.
Not only the rainfalls, but even the temperatures. The temperatures have changed the patterns of the plants, the time of flowering, when the fruiting will happen and all that.
But you know why this is important?
Yeah.
All the issues that Farmer Anthony mentioned, then you're now throwing in, it already crippling the agric sector, then you're now throwing in climate change as a key factor for farmers.
Yeah.
That is apocalyptic because a lot of them is we've created. There's a lot of the things that he said, man-made. If you don't have irrigation, you're not introducing technology, etc. You're not subsidizing, etc. Those ones, if you really plan, you can do something about. Climate change takes a whole different approach.
Yeah, and that's why we can also, even though I do agree that we have limited control, but we can put measures to ensure that farmers are able to adapt to the situation. That's why I mentioned irrigation. And irrigation is non-negotiable. It's not only within Ghana. Even in Europe, you go to China, you go to USA, everyone is prioritizing irrigation development. Let's just visit our neighbors in Burkina Faso. The reason why we depend so much in Burkina for vegetables like tomatoes, pepper, onions, is because they prioritize dugouts in every household. Okay, so during the dry season, when our farmers are struggling, they have to travel all the way from the northern Ghana to come to search for non-existent Kayayi work. The Burkinabes are producing. They used to depend on us. They have taken the first step.
Fascinating. So that's one.
That's one.
Okay.
The second major concern has to do with high cost of production. And this one, I will break it down. Mechanization services. 3 years ago, if you are bringing in farm machineries like tractors, inputs like fertilizers, agrochemicals, it was duty-free. We have engaged all the importers as we speak. People imported agrochemicals as far as April. And as of now, they cannot clear them.
Stuck at the ports?
Yes, because of high cost of duties. And that reflects in the cost of providing those services to the farmers. Because if, let's take it, I bought tractor for $25,000, then you come to Ghana, duties alone is more than $25,000. So the additional cost is shifted to the farmer. Last 3 years, you used to plow an acre for 100 Ghana cedis. Today, plowing alone is taking about 300 Ghana cedis. Okay, you take agrochemicals like glyphosate and all the selectives, you are not getting any less than 50 cedis. And some used to be less than 20 Ghana cedis. Even the selective, in some occasions, we are buying for 150 Ghana cedis. So we think that one of the major priorities we want any of the political parties to look at is to provide tax incentives to agriculture machineries, agro inputs. When you go to Norway, I just have a conversation with
tax incentives.
Yeah. Fuel subsidy, Farmer Morrison mentioned. If you own a tractor, you go to a filling station, they give you farmers fuel. You buy the diesel and the color is different. So people who try to escape that, buy and then they have to move it. There are security at the various checkpoints. They'll do sample selection to check the color of your fuel to see whether it's for tractors or people deliberately fill your saloon cars. Okay? But in Ghana, we are not getting that. Today, I was struggling. I don't want to mention the company. I had 3 trucks at Tema to load fertilizers. They sent all the trucks back. The fertilizer got finished.
Why?
Today, it's finished. The importers are struggling to bring stock in. And you know, farming is time-bound. Once the crop is ready to consume the fertilizer, you don't give it, and then you give it a week later. It's useless. Yeah.
Charles, stay with me. I want to bring in Prof. Prof, so you listen to that, and of course you are from academia, you have an overview of what is happening in the sector. The parties are drafting their manifestos. You listen to the presentation in terms of the areas they must focus, and then he's added, the climate change bit and then tax incentive for farmers. Are these addressing the core issues that will transform the agri sector if it's included in the manifestos?
Yeah, Evans, I want to thank you so much for the invitation, to be part of this discussion. When he was giving the presentation, in fact, I followed, he seemed to have mentioned the issues bordering agric in this country. The point is that I have followed especially the agric budget. Anytime they read the agric budget or the budget, they call me for this, the post-parliamentary budget workshop. And I started doing that, I think, 2013 until now. And these are the issues. And what have we done? I wouldn't say that, the past government haven't done anything. They have. The policies that they've brought in, Operation Feed Yourself, and then SADA, and Planning for Food and Job 1 and 2. They are doing well. But fundamentally, there are issues. And I want to look at it from the financing aspect. The financing aspect. Currently, what we are doing is agric funding and not agricultural financing. And what do I mean by this? If you talk of agricultural financing, If, let's say, I'm a farmer, I can get to the bank, go for loan at whatever interest rate they will give me, use it. I should be able to work with it, get enough to pay off the loan, and of course the interest rate.
Because it's
at
a business.
Any time.
This is a
yes,
business.
It's a business.
It must make returns.
Good.
For you to pay off your debt.
Exactly. But if it is agricultural funding, it is either from the government or from donors. Now, government will come, government will go. But the point is that, would that be sustainable in terms of what? The agricultural funding. He raised an issue with the budget allocation to Agric.
He says it should be at
around
least
15%. Yes. I've been following it since 2013, as I mentioned. I think we are doing around 7, 8, thereabout.
Do you agree it should be 15% of the budget must be
Well,
devoted to Agric?
well, it depends on those that will be brought into supervision and doing the specifics. Other than that, we can throw in, the funds, but yet we may have little to show.
But if we assume, let's hold one assumption constant. If we assume that we have the people to manage it, should we have 15% of a budget devoted to Agric?
Well, it's been agreed that at least we can do 10%.
10%.
Yeah, so if we do the 10% and then we are doing it well.
In other words, 15% is not realistic.
I don't think so. I don't think so. But do you know what? The little we have been doing, it is skewed to cocoa. And I always want to say that if it comes to the cocoa, we are over-pampering the cocoa sector. For instance, if you take the Planting for Food and Job, it's a very flagship, a program for the MPP. We have the Planting for Food and Job. We have the Rearing for Food and Job. We have Aquaculture for Food and Job. We have Planting for Export and Rural Development. Yes, and all are competing for about 20% of what goes into agricultural budgeting. The 80% goes to cocoa. There was this workshop, it was done in Aqua Safari, that was 2017. And then I raised this issue that if we take the cocoa, let's say we reduce a little bit of the budget, and then we push it to other cash crops, like palm oil, like coconut, we can get a lot. I remember that day, I mentioned that we could get millions of dollars from coconut. And then the late Ajakun, he was there. And then he said, a young man, it's not millions. We can make billions from that. So I want to believe that there's a bit of skewness when it comes to the agricultural budget allocation. If maybe we can take a look at it, it will go a long way to help. Now, the Global Food Security Index that he showed, very fantastic. And he mentions that at least we are doing well in some areas when it comes to affordability. But the affordability that he claims we're doing well, when you go to the site, Ghana is ranked 75th out of the 113. And so the question is that, are we doing that well in terms of the affordability? Food security, we have 6 pillars in all. We have the availability, we have accessibility, we have utilization, stability, sustainability, and agency. When it comes to this country, I want to believe that we are doing a bit well in terms of the availability. But the others, accessibility, making food accessible to everybody is still a challenge. High prices of food and all that. This man, the former Agric Minister, Akotosai, he did something, and that is to get some goods at some vantage point for people to go and buy at very affordable price.
But that wasn't sustainable.
You know what? When it came, I went to have a program, I think, with the Statistical Service. And they asked me this question. That was during the time that he was doing it. They asked me this question, whether it was going to be sustainable. I looked at them and bluntly, I told them, no, it will not be sustainable. But at least I will credit that man for one thing. At least he opened our eyes to realize that, after all, food can be affordable.
Okay, I'll come and take all your verdicts on the plan for food and jobs because it was part of a budget, a manifesto promise that was executed. And so that gives us sort of a signal going forward. Edward, let me come to you. So Prophet's touched on quite a bit. He's talking about financing. That's for him is where the focus should be. What about you? I mean, at the General Agricultural Workers Union, have you met the parties yet?
Well, we have met them. Next month, just by, if I guess we'll be meeting them because we are asking them to come and tell us how they are going to deal with agriculture, climate change and agriculture. Okay. So you can see that.
So you're also focusing on climate change?
Of course.
That it shouldn't be a coincidence that both the peasant farmers and GAU all have climate change top on the agenda when they meet the parties.
It's top on the agenda because climate change is not a theory. There are physical manifestations of climate change. The people are seeing it. The rains are not coming. They need water to water their crops. There's no water. Rivers are drying up. Heat is killing them. So it is not a theory to them. It's a practical manifestation, and that's what they see. Now, if you look at irrigation, which I think, you see, just as a country, when you have a vision and you don't follow the vision, then along the line, you behave as if the problems you are facing are new. Look, our forefathers, not even forefathers, because if you look at Achampon's regime, they built most of the irrigation dams. The tunnel irrigation dam was built by him. They saw that the people need water to be able to do agriculture. We needed to have continued with more of those dams. We did not do so. Until today, we are in crisis. Then again, when you look at the climate change, we also have a version of the climate change. I can imagine that people think that climate change is something that is in Europe, it has been caused by Europeans or some people somewhere, and we are now feeling the brunt. What about our own contribution? If climate change is partly caused by human activity, what do we do to cause climate change? And today, it's not surprising at all when Dr. Charles indicated that prices are supposed to be coming down around this time because we are supposed to be harvesting, particularly in the southern sector. Why are we not harvesting enough? It's all because not only about the rains, it's also because the lands are destroyed. If you look at when we started with Galamsey, and consistently, we've been destroying the land which is never reclaimed. I don't know how much of irrigation, Galamsey land that has been destroyed has been reclaimed. If anything at all, it's insignificant. Now, if you look at the cumulative effect of it, and I liken Galamsey effect to be like fire. When fire destroys an object, you can put out the fire, but the effect is there forever until you do something deliberate to bring back that object. So Galamsey, wherever it passes, the effect is permanent until you do something deliberate to
you have a specific
recover.
demand of the parties in your manifestos as to how to deal with Galamsey because its impact on farming is well documented. Farmers are now giving up their arable lands to illegal miners.
Well, that is the future. The most singular enemy to agriculture is Galamsey. Okay. And it links to the climate change. If you destroy your river bodies, the atmosphere will be dried. If you destroy your forest, you begin to experience heat. If you destroy your farmlands, then certainly you would have food crisis. So Galamsey is the most singular enemy of agriculture going into the future.
What's your demand of the parties when you met them on that specifically?
Well, we are demanding that they must be clear and tell all of us how they are going to stop Galamsey. Look, he's talking about irrigation. If you go to the records, out of the 16 regions, 13 regions are active in Galamsey. So it means that is a big land space of Ghana, which is being used for Galamsey. Now, when you are talking about irrigation, how do we build dams? We build dams on riverways. You see, there must be a river. You don't build dams on a hill. You build dams on a riverway where water will flow, and then you trap the water. And then you now find out how you are going to ensure that when there's excess water, the water passes through the spillway, and then some valves and so on. If you go and dump any of the rivers, let's talk about the Brim River. You talk about the Tano River. You talk about the river, which one? Denso, and all those rivers. You are now going to capture what Galamsey water. And that water is not good for agriculture. So what we have done to ourselves today, we can be asking for more irrigation dams. But we have effectively pushed this country out of building irrigation dam. It's no more going to be about resources to build the irrigation dam. If you have millions of dollars or billions of dollars lying here and you have to use it to build irrigation dam, you build irrigation dam and you harvest what? Galamsey water, which is not good for agriculture. So you can see that the climate change will become severer in Ghana than any other country. If you take Burkina Faso, naturally, they are closer to the Sahel than us. They are supposed to be suffering more. But I'm telling you that if you have the chance, even during the dry season, you drive there, you see that they don't burn the
because of
bushes.
and Charles makes the point, because of the investment in irrigation.
And they invest in irrigation, and what they are doing today, look, it will not be long. The things that we import from Burkina Faso, we will no more have the opportunity to import because they are going to process it. Okay. They have not been processing their tomatoes. That is why we even have the chance to have it. Very soon, when they build their factories to process their tomatoes, we will not have fresh tomatoes anymore.
And those are very grim realities you are all painted. And you're talking to the parties to try and get them to commit to changing the current narrative. There's something else that Farmer Anthony said I want to pick your thoughts on. And it goes to the creating the enabling environment for farmers to thrive. It talks about subsidies. And that's a very controversial subject, right? But he says we mustn't get government to put in. Prof, let me start with you. Is that something that you expect the parties to commit to?
Is
that subsidies, yes?
Well, if you look at the 2024 budget, and I guess that is when they rolled in the Planting for Food and Job too. And in that, they deleted the subsidy from the Planting for Food and Job. And this time, they are moving into the credit-based system. Yes, the subsidies were not working. We're doing 50% subsidies on fertilizer and seeds and all that. They were not working. If you go to Zambia, Zambia is doing 80% subsidy. It is not working. Why? Now, we get these inputs to the farmers during the lean season. And then you go to them, they're already, cash strapped. And so a lot more are not able to afford. Those who afford are also smuggling. And so the subsidies are not just working. So in the 2024 budget, they introduced the credit-based system. In other words, you'll be given the credit to get the input facilities that you need. Now, how can the farmers get the facilities? Maybe through some outgrower schemes that can front. They can go to the banks, pick the loans, and then get to these farmers. But the question is that, if it comes to the financial institutions that are giving loans to the farmers, ADB has lost its focus. Bank of Ghana in 1990 was doing about 16% to Agric. Now it is hovering around 1 to 2%. And so the credit-based system itself may have a problem. So I was waiting to see this year whether what they introduced in the budget is going to work at all. But other than that, the subsidies, personally, I have issues with that.
Okay, so subsidies not for you. Let me hear from Charles. Charles, what about you? Peasant farmers.
Yeah,
you want the subsidies, you want credit?
So for us, based on previous experiences with subsidy, I think it is one of the reasons why the PFJ 1.0 has been reviewed to input credit system. The main core of the input credit system was to revolve around aggregators. So the aggregator was serving as a link between the farmer, the financial institution, the service provider. If I say service provider, it could be mechanization service provider, it could be fertilizer supplier, it could be seed and agrochemicals. Then government was then creating a link or playing a facilitating role to ensure that the financial institutions were sponsoring the service provider to provide the inputs to the aggregator. Then aggregator then transmits same to the farmer. When the farmer produces, my tree is not good, as the Agric Minister said, that the own here assassin kwan. So the aggregator gets you everything. Once you produce, we quantify the cost of the inputs in kind. So if, let's say, the total inputs you took is 2,000 worth, so we peg the price of maize around 100 kg, around 500 Ghana cedis. You give $4 to the aggregator, who then deposit it in a warehouse, a designated warehouse facilitated by the master aggregator. So the ministry keeps this during the laying season. They release it on the market at a moderate price to smoothen the food price in play. So that was just the main crux of the PFJ2. So we all actually welcome it because the subsidy system that we practice since 2009 never worked. If you look at 2022, even with the subsidy, the market price of fertilizer was the same price as the fertilizer that is subsidized. And apart from that, the quality of the fertilizer was in question. There was even instances where the minister stated that there were donkeys that were smuggling the fertilizer to Burkina. All this is linked with the subsidy system. So if the input credit system were to work well, I don't think we will need a subsidy. Now, we can do the subsidy in a different way. Just like I said, you can give incentives to private investors who want to invest in the agriculture sector. You can facilitate for them to get loans with either low interest or interest-free. You can also ensure that all agro inputs are tax exempted.
Which is what you said at the beginning.
Yes. So I think that is a different way of subsidy that the government can do since they are not able to handle the direct subsidy program.
Okay, Edward, what's your take on this?
Well, for me, subsidy is a developmental tool. There's no country that has ever developed without using subsidies. And there's no country today, however developed it is, and we saw that in Farmer Morrison's presentation, that does not use subsidy. If you mismanage your subsidy, you need to correct the mismanagement. We shall not allow government to run away from giving subsidy because it's a tragedy for any government on this earth to say that you are not going to give subsidy. Even the well-developed economies and their systems and so on still see the need to give subsidy. Can you imagine that you have a whole kitchen and you have to cook food and you don't have a knife there? If you misapply the knife and it cuts you, next time don't do so.
What are you subsidizing though?
What I'm saying that we must learn how to subsidize without creating waste. What we have done is deliberate. The smuggling of the fertilizer. We know those who have smuggled the fertilizer. You see, these are things we cannot pretend that we don't know. People are responsible to ensure that the fertilizer gets to the target group. They don't do it.
So you're saying that it is not because subsidies are bad, just because of mismanagement.
And I'm saying that because mismanagement leads to corruption, or corruption leads to mismanagement, or whatever. So, as a country, look. That is why if you look at the PFJ phase 2, it's a non-starter. It's a non-starter for me in the sense that it is trying to take away the subsidy, and it's a non-starter. And I'm saying that you don't run away when there's mismanagement. You correct it. And in our case, we know how the subsidies were mismanaged. You see? So we just have to correct that. Okay. And when we correct it, subsidies are important. And I'm saying that the professors are here. They can say it. where on this earth a country has ever developed without subsidy?
Well, the profits, yeah.
And
Prof.
today,
Ask Prof the question. Like,
Prof, I mean, it could be rhetorical, but then,
this is not.
Yeah, but
because he's the only
if you
prof
can
with us,
tell
so
us,
he has to educate
if you
us.
can tell us which country has ever developed without subsidies, and even today, which country is able to manage its resources and economy without applying strategies here and there? You know, it's a tool.
Let him address that.
So,
Prof.
Well, WTO frowns on subsidies. And where is WTO located? Yes, so that, we have a level playing ground for market. And so WTO itself frowns on what? Subsidies. Yeah, the point is that the subsidies that we give to the farmers, number one, this part of the world, I don't know, attitudinal issues could be a very strong point that has to be addressed. So you're talking of mismanagement, maybe on the part of those who are in helms of affairs. But the point is that those we are giving the subsidies to, attitudinally, there are issues. So it's a problem. So the point is, if you give me money on credit basis, I have the power, ability to go to the bank, pick it, and then use it for my own. At the end, there is such provision for market such that I can make profit and pay off. Which one is better? And by the way, the subsidies. It is 50% here in Ghana. If you go to Zambia, it's 80%. I don't know whether there will be another government who want to change the rate or whatever. So the point is it sustainable?
You think it's not?
I don't think so. Let's deal with what? The agricultural financing. Let's entool our financial institutions to go in for agric, whilst taking into consideration some of these shocks in agriculture.
Okay, so all of you, and I'll come to you, Farmer Anthony, because this is your original suggestion. If we fix everything else you've said, and the farmer begins to produce a healthy harvest, he has to find a market. You have to link that to market, and the farmer can make profit out of that. We'll talk about that. What proposals are you making to the parties to factor in? Farmer Anthony has some suggestions. For Farmer Anthony, give me your quick thoughts on that. The 2 against on the show, 2 against subsidies, 2 for it. You are for subsidies with Edward Carraway.
Yeah.
Charles Jabba and Prof are say that's not the way to go. Credit is the way to go. Give me your quick thoughts on that.
Well, the 3 key issues are here. First, the political interference in the subsidy system. 2, poor farmer data across the country. And 3, what I want to liken what Prof said. If you have poor farmer data, whether we are going on agriculture financing or agriculture funding or subsidies, you still get it wrong. Data is key towards implementing any successful thing. And you remember I said competence in deliverables. If you put projects at the doorsteps of politicians to deliver, you always get it wrong. The point here is that the decentralization process of PFJ and any other form of subsidies should go directly. MOFA should focus on what they need to do and get the Department of Agriculture to actually drive agriculture project implementations in the country. And that is the only way we can begin to see results.
So you are saying that take politicians out of agric.
That's it.
And leave it to the technocrats?
Technical directors, yeah.
Leave it to the key implementers. And the key implementers, the value chain, the farmers, the input importers, and also the coordinators.
But what role then do you reserve for the politicians?
Well, let them focus on policy and let the experts actually now look at those who are not able to deliver based on their target, and they should punish for it. But when you have the politicians interfering, the other side of punishment or having the project taken from them is not able to get it achieved.
That's a fascinating point. And Charles, you agree with this?
Yeah, I perfectly agree.
That the next government must commit to do policy and stay away.
See, one of the major setbacks of MOFA is lack of control by the technical directors. Everything is determined by the minister. And I said it. I said it before the minister. And I don't think that is fair. You have technical directors who are expertise in their areas of operation. You go to veterinary, you have the directors who went to school, trained in that area. You go to the PPA, RSD, people who went to train on agronomists, pest control, and then a politician will come there who never took any course on agriculture to come and make nonsense of all.
So what do you want to see in a manifesto then, if you want to address this?
We want them to allow the technical directors, led by the chief director, to design agriculture policies and lead with the implementation. Okay? I think Prof earlier mentioned that he was happy with the previous minister who turned the ministry compound
into a market.
Into plantain market. I strongly disagree with that. I think that was not right, because we know what the ministry is meant for. It's meant to provide facilitation room to guide farmers. I went there where you see directors ringing bell, plantain market. That is not what they were trying to do. And it is all because we gave them too much power to determine what should be done. Today, let me just tell you this. With the planting for food and job phase 2, the subsidy is there. It's not completely gone. Fertilizer is being carried to communities and given to selected farmers. Other farmers don't know the criteria they use to select those farmers. It is not the credit component that the ministry were responding to me. Okay? There's a component they claim that fertilizer is given for free. And that fertilizer, it is only the ministry that determines which farmer is qualified to get that fertilizer.
Should the next government continue with the plan for food and jobs, or completely overhaul it, or
you see,
scrap it?
the initial concept that we all developed was fantastic.
Okay.
But when it came to the implementation, they changed everything.
Okay, stay on, because we have 10 minutes to wrap. I want to bring an advocate in
Can I
again.
say something
Yes,
very
please,
brief?
very briefly. Yes.
Yes, what the former minister did, I'm not saying that I support him. I only said, remember, you are my student. Yes, but, you know, at the gathering, I said that thing was not going to be sustainable. But the point was that wherever he did it, whether on the premises of food MOFA or whatever, at least he opened our eyes to the fact that food can be affordable. And so what is the issue? The issue, I think, is that there are so many people in the middle, the middlemen. Those days, myself and my senior brother went to dress, sales. Now somebody imported it, gave it to one person, gave it to another, and then gave it to us to sell. So I came to you, Evans. I said, can you buy it? And then that person asked me a question. Where did I get the product? Is it directly from the wholesale or through middlemen? And my conscience told me that indeed, if there are so many middlemen in the chain, food prices would increase. And that is what a former minister exposed us to. You go to the market, there are queens for plantain. Bring your plantain. If you don't go through them, it won't work. So if we can find a way to deal with food distribution, consider holistically the food systems. Other than that, we'll be going round.
And then on that point, I want to bring Edward in. Edward, that's the last part I want all of us to tackle, which is from the farm gate to the farm and to the market. From the farm gate to the market. He touched on that. There isn't a market now, and if there isn't a market, you will struggle, so you would smuggle it out. What do you want to see as far as that is concerned? Creating that enabling environment for farmers to have the market for what they produce.
Well, production is dependent on market. When there's no market, production has a limited point.
Right now, is the market vibrant for what you produce?
There's no market.
Okay.
And when you talk about market, it's not just about the fact that there are places where you can carry your things to, but it encompasses the fiscal and facilitation role that needs to be done to be able to access the market.
So you're talking about roads, your transportation,
And all those have to be part of the market. And today, you can see that everybody knows very well that our road network is totally, is just deplorable, particularly into the rural areas where the farm gates and so on rose to that place. We are not, developing alternative transport system. We should be doing train, which can carry cargo and so on. We are not just doing that. We are dependent on road transport, and then the roads, we are unable to keep up with pace. And more importantly, when we even construct it, they don't last. So all that goes a long way to create that. But I just want to say that, you see, we shouldn't, there are certain things we cannot pretend to be more a Catholic than the Pope. Even those who believe in allowing the market, the forces of the market, demand and supply to determine things, they are subsidizing. Even those people. So there is no way out. Unfortunately, we have been able to identify what is creating the waste. So if you identify what is creating the waste, like Charles has said, you don't allow the technical directors to work. That is part of the mismanagement. That is part of the mismanagement. So if we are able to allow the technical directors at the ministry to do their work without interference, we are talking about political interference, we are doing it. If we are able to curtail those things, then the subsidies work. But you see, we don't want to do that. Those who have got the power to do that don't want to take their hands off because they want to make the subsidies a waste. And they want to benefit from it. And once they want to benefit from it, then they will push out everybody. So market is critical, and there can never be production without market. We have been talking about market, as if when they say, and then I think that there must be other cluster of policies, not only about production. If we take our trade policies, how do they go to enhance domestic production? You recall that I think last year that they now put off the discounted benchmark value where they virtually subsidize imports because you pay only part of the import duty and the rest you could do. You don't do that against domestic producers. After the domestic producers collapsed, like poultry industry collapsed, now you took away the policy. So our trade policies must also be designed in such a way that they support local production. Exemptions. What are we exemption? What products? It is true that there are some products that are necessary to exempt them now because they are essential. For instance, if you take pharmaceuticals, where people need the drugs urgently if they don't get it, and you do some selected exemption, that's okay. But if you look at our exemption range of products, some of those products can be produced here, yet they allow the poultry products. So trade policy...
That's what policy should do.
Trade policy must align with what? Production policies, and must also align with what? Our industrial policy. For instance, you are talking about one district, one factory. Where are you going to get your raw materials? And if you look at the nature of the one district, one factory, their raw materials are coming from agriculture. So it therefore means that if your agriculture is not doing well, then those industries will certainly not have raw materials. And because they are small, they don't have the capacity to import. Then they will die a natural death.
That's an interesting point, because I wanted to end on a note of industrialization using agriculture.
Yes.
And Charles, what's your demand of parties as far as that is concerned? We've seen one district, one factory. It attempted to do that. Yeah. It didn't quite succeed, as we've seen, obviously. How should parties do it differently from 2025 going forward? Very briefly, because I need to...
Yeah, so I want to just touch a bit on the marketing.
Very briefly.
A very fantastic proposal.
What's the proposal?
You see, when we started the season, this season, maize, farmers were looking for 300 Ghana cedis for 100 kg, and they were not getting. Rice was going for 2 cedis, 50 pesos per kilo, and they were not getting. Today, the same 100 kg of maize is going for 600 cedis, and we are not even getting to buy. Rice is going for 5 cedis per kilo, paddy rice, and we are not getting to buy. What happened? We gave a proposal that as the farmers were looking for the market and they were not getting, we have built one district, one warehouse. The warehouses were free. Why can't we go and mop up this produce and provide guaranteed market to farmers and keep them there? We can either use them to supply to school feeding programs. We can supply to the one district, one factory. We can also release them to market women during this time and then give them certain price to sell to the market. We sat down. Togolese came, Nigerians came, Burkinabe came, and mop everything. Okay? So the supply in the system became far lower than demand. What will happen to prices? Well, up there. So we want the political parties as a matter of priority. Ensure that we continue with the one district, one warehouse concept. Build more warehouses. Try to put us settlers, especially like peasant farmers, who made many of agro-based industry stop importing. Guinness Ghana is one. When we came to the scene, we told them that we are stopping them from buying belly from Argentina to process. Today, they are getting 100% of their raw materials from us.
That's impressive.
We can do that for other areas.
That's impressive.
Now, let me just give me a minute to clarify this.
I have 30 seconds.
Before my people want to...
Yes.
Yeah,
but I'll give you some 30 seconds, 30 seconds and one to for Anthony to wrap up. Yes.
Yeah. So let me make it clear. The peasant farmers are not against subsidy, but we are against the kind of fertilizer subsidy that was implemented. And as I mentioned earlier, how can we make sure that mechanization becomes cheaper for farmers? Okay. Take off import duties. Take off all the taxes. Even the fertilizer that is coming, if you look at the tax component, it's so high. So we are thinking that if government take all those taxes out, prices will stabilize and we'll be able to get it at a lower cost. Prof?
Yes. If it comes to the marketing, I guess we have to be smart, specific, targeted. Yes, for instance, we are dealing with sugar. Have the Commander Sugar Factory, maybe NDC started or finished, NPP would have taken it up, expanded to whatever capacity.
But it hasn't moved.
Yes,
it's still a white elephant.
Specific. Now, he said it all, but let me bring the issue of livestock, and for that matter, poultry. 1960, we're doing about 12% importation of poultry. Now, we are doing over 85%. Why? We have the imported, poultry meat in cut parts. It's processed in cut part. So can I see a government that would want to establish a factory, a processing factory, one at the north, one in the middle, one at the south, and then all the farmers are empowered. Take your goods there, process them, and then it's well packaged. Now, that is not enough. Let's go to the various hotels and, for instance, papaya. If you go, the chicken people are consuming, we talk to all of them. Now, this year, there is a policy that take a chunk or a certain percentage from what Ghana is doing in terms of the chicken processing. I think that it will go a long way. We should be specific. Okay. We should be targeted in what we do.
Anthony, what do you do with your manifesto?
So, well, we're going to.
What have you done with it? Because I know you've done a lot of work.
Yes. So, what we intend to do is now to engage the political parties. But first of all, we're looking at 3 key areas: national policy prioritization, alignment of all national policies with our national interests or priorities, and also harmonize all the various agriculture sector policies such that they are being implemented by the agencies that ought to implement them. Because we're having small coming into the pod, but we're having a lot of people implementing the small. So we are not seeing the impact. So if we work on these areas very well, we will be seeing something very greater. But finally, let's empower NDPC to police the ministries. The ministries have become so, they've become more like, they've made NDPC like the proletariat, and ministries have become like the bourgeoisies. Lot of resources going to the ministries. The NDPC that needs to actually police national policy to make sure that the ministries, the agencies are delivering on the national mandate, are not being resourced well enough. We need the NDPC to be like the IGP of Ghana policy and make sure that if a ministry failed to deliver on their mandate this year, they are reprimanded. They are given maybe a lower budget. So next time, if they do not have the right competent people, they ask them to go for refresher training.
Okay.
Because we are having a lot of wastage at the ministries. And we need to make sure that we plug that wastage.
Okay, from Anthony, thank you. Prof, I'm grateful that you joined us. Charles, you're always with us. And when the parties come up with their manifestos, you'll be back here to analyze whether they indeed address your concerns. And Edward, don't go missing again. I will not. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Prof,